What's up guys, Madar Truger Development. I'm on one of my flips and today I'm replacing windows. Specifically, I'm working with the Pella 150 series. That's a window that you can get from Lowe's. Before I switch the camera around and show you what I'm doing, I'm going to make a quick distinction between pocket replacement windows and new construction or full frame replacement windows. So let me show you what I mean. Okay guys, this here is a pocket replacement window. You know this because there's no flange here, what they call a nail flange, to nail onto the framing of the building or to screw onto the framing of the building. The closest thing I have to kind of demonstrate this is this J block here. If you were to picture this as the window and this is the nail flange. So with new construction, you have the 2x4 framing exposed. So all you'd have to do is square your window and then you nail it onto the frame, and then you do your flashing and weatherproofing and all that stuff. Most of the time when you're dealing with a replacement, it's probably going to be a pocket replacement. So what I'm going to be working on today is that it's pocket replacement using those replacement windows. Here is a bunch of stuff that you're gonna need. I'm gonna start with here. Of course, you're gonna need your flashing tape. These come in 4 inches wide. I'm gonna need a pry bar to get some of the trim molding off, and I'll show you how all that works. Some pliers to get some nails off, obviously a knife always, a bunch of shims, and some exterior silicone to fill in the gaps and stuff like that. Again, I'll show you where we're gonna work that. Also, you wanna have a pair of drill and a driver, and finally an oscillating tool or a knife to break the shim. All right guys, so before I start, I want to go over the measuring process. So if you have a window, the first thing you want to do is measure for your replacement. How do you know what size to get? Well, the easiest way to do this, if you don't have the trim exposed, which of course you could expose it if you want to, but what you want to do is go right to the inside of the trim. So right before your casing begins, there's usually a filler piece right here. So you go from there into the other filler piece. And this right here gives me just about 32 inches. And then to get the height, you want to go from the highest point or the top point of your sill into the inside of the top right here. So in this case, you go right from here, right from here to right up there, and that gives me just 54 inches. Okay, so you know your replacement window is gonna have to be inside of 32 by 54. So the way they have them set up is by the opening, the rough opening size. And for us, that was 32 by 54, which means the window is gonna give you ½ inch of space to work with. Next, I wanna go over taking the window out. I'm working with older wood windows. Usually you can see there is some wiggle room in one side. This side doesn't have it, this side has it. So we're gonna push against this side. So you're gonna grab the top and the bottom, and then you push over that way and out, just like that. Same thing with the top one. Bring it down a little bit and push it against the flexible side. Now next, you want to take out the track. Pry bar for the other side because that's stapled. And you want to take out this piece right here. Now that you have your rough opening ready to go, don't flash yet. Next, what we want to do is we want to dry fit our window. All right, a couple of tips as far as opening these windows. Never cut the face or the back. You can cut the top because that's going to be hidden. Same thing with the sides. These windows, the 150 series, will come with this top trim piece. Underneath it, there is what I call the skirt, and I'll show you where this goes. So you gotta take this out. All right, now that you have it open, do yourself a favor. The second tip is get the screen off. You don't wanna damage the screen. I don't know if you've worked on screens before. They are a pain to repair. Since we're replacing from inside out, we're gonna put the window in and push it against the exterior stop trim right here. Now, before I go ahead and dry fit this in, I want to double check my measurements. There's no way I can take this window now and dry fit it here, so I need to pop these pieces out. No big deal. All right, guys, the trim is off. And I actually kept this little piece because I want to see if I could sit it in and then push it. Also, either way, the side trim is going to have to be taken off because you want to shim the sides. All right, here we go. So we're going to put the bottom in first, and we're going to push the window in against that exterior trim. You also want to check what it looks like outside. So just be careful here. You want to hold the window and you want to check the gap right here. And that looks, it needs to be pushed like this way, which is fine. We'll do that as we drill or as we screw it in. And looks like it needs to be adjusted up there. No, it looks pretty good. And then we'll run a bead of caulk all the way down. Now, you see this gap here? That's where that skirt is gonna come in. Also, the nice thing with these pocket replacement windows is the sill or the bottom of those windows are already pitched out. So if I look at it this way, you'll see that this is not straight, it's pitched out. And you have your weeping holes right here. Okay, so even if you had a rotted sill and you have to remove the sill out and reframe, you could reframe with a regular 2x4 that's straight and then sit this right on top and you'll have no problems. Now that you've checked the window will fit in right, we're gonna take it back out. We're gonna install that skirt because it's much easier to do that before you put the window in. Okay guys, this is the skirt. Do not skip this part. You will need it. It's a little tricky to put in. This channel right here goes in this track right here. The easiest way to do this is take one end and you're gonna apply a lot of pressure to it. There you go. Angle it down a little bit. It makes it much easier. And then adjust it. Now before we put our window in, let's go ahead and get some flashing done. Measure approximately what you're gonna need. You wanna come up about 8 inches. Next, get your silicone.
And this is where the window is going to go up against. All right, guys, now that I have my rough opening all ready to go, before I go ahead and put my window in, you want to make sure that if you're working by yourself, that you have everything you need within an arm's reach. So I got my shims, I got my drill set, my level, of course, and I think we're ready to go. Okay, using the same technique, we're going to set this down bottom first and push. Now that we have our skirt outside or attached to the window, you want to make sure that it too is inside that exterior trim. And if you remember that gap, now it's all covered. And of course, we're gonna caulk the bottom. All right, now it's time to go ahead and shim everything, and then we're gonna level the window. You wanna shim where you have the pre-drilled holes. Now, it's important to shim the bottom, the middle section, and the top at the same time before you go and screw the window in, because you want to have a level opening, or you want to have an equal opening on all parts of the window. Also, before I proceed, notice that I did not shim the bottom. For me, this is a very tight opening, and I'm not going to need to shim the bottom unless I am not level. And it looks like I will need to shim the bottom. All right, so I got the bottom here shimmed a little bit. I had to take this out, this bottom trim, and I'm pretty level right here. Okay, so now that the bottom is in, or I mean level, let's see what we got going on here. That is pretty good for me. And this right here, same thing. This needs to be pulled back a little bit, and the top needs to be pushed. There we go. That looks pretty good. Now that the window is square, level, plumb, we're gonna go ahead and start drilling and screwing. I'm gonna start with my bottom screws because I know the window gotta come back just a little bit. Now guys, I want to point out that too, with these windows, you're going to have a trim that covers the two screws that are in here. So what you need to do is pull these two levers back and open the window towards you. Be careful to do this very slowly because you don't want it to come off the chain or whatever these things called, the springs. And here you just use your finger and pop this thing out. Well, that went outside. I was gonna tell you to remember the orientation in which it went, but oh well. You got a pre-drilled hole here and there. Push the window back in. There you have it, guys. So I have all my screws in, 2 in the bottom and 2 in the top. Next, I want to put these trim pieces back in. So remember, this one kind of went flying, but the orientation is this. So the flat part goes in and then you push the other part. So there you go, just like that. And then you push this part in. And then you slide your fingers up. It's a little tricky the first couple of times you do this. There you go. Next, grab your oscillating tool and cut the shim. Next is this great stuff. I have a love-hate relationship with this thing. Love what it does, hate that you cannot store the can. Even though it tells you, yeah, you can store it I've tried that many times. It's a 50-50 whether it works or not. But anyways, here we go. I usually like to try first just to see how much is going to come out and all that stuff and get that muscle memory back. Now you go into the gaps and you want to go to the far end, and you don't want to overkill this thing. Here it goes. All right, just a nice thin bead, because the more you do, the more you're gonna have to cut out once it foams out of the gap, and it's gonna be a giant mess. Once the foam is dry, grab your utility knife, cut off any excess. Once you're done, you're ready to replace your trim that you took out in the first place. Now, once your trim is back in place, if you have any big gaps like this, of course, you're not gonna go and caulk this. So you wanna find some sort of trim that will fit in. In my case, I got the scribe molding, and that's gonna go right in here, just like that. And once I punch it in place, of course, I'm then gonna go ahead and pretty the whole thing up with some more caulking and then paint, and it will all blend in just fine. And there you go, guys. I hope you liked the video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't. That's the only way to support it. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. I'll be happy to take a look. See you guys in the next one.